hopefully this will be a good revision for anyone who's missed the sessions on Curley's wife, or have missed when we were doing our annotations. But also, if you were there, it's a really good revision. So if we go straight into it and look at the first extract, wait till you'll see Curley's wife. So this is quite interesting. John Steinbeck has chosen to use this term. He could have said wait till you see Vicky or wait till you see Lucy, but he's decided to say Curley's wife. So the reason for this is that it shows to us that she's a possession. So the apostrophe here, the apostrophe of possession indicates that Curley's wife, she belongs to Curley. She's his possession, just like his horse, his hat and his handgun. So it's showing us that that's how low, that's how she's seen by Curley and by the other men on the ranch, as just his belonging. So it's quite interesting. We could link it to Curley's glove full of Vaseline. So we can debate whether he actually needs to use the glove or he actually does use the glove for touching his wife, but he actually wears it just as a status symbol to show the people on the ranch that that woman belongs to me. The second reason we could say that Steinbeck uses this is that her name, or lack of name, is a symbol for male oppression in 1930s America. Steinbeck himself said, she's not a person, she's a symbol. So I said, remember I said in previous lessons, to get really good marks, you have to link your controlled assessment back to the context, back to the Dust Bowl, back to the Great Depression. So basically Steinbeck is saying that she's a symbol for how women were being treated at that time, that they were just being seen as objects, or they were seen as people who were pretty, or just for men for cooking and for cleaning. So George cut the cards again and put out a solitaire lay, slowly and deliberately. So there's a couple of things I'd like to say about this part. One of the things is that solitaire basically means, the word solitary means lonely or alone. So this card game called solitaire you play on your own. So that probably indicates to us that George is a bit of a lonely character. He has got Lenny. Lenny goes everywhere with him, but from a conversation point of view, he's probably not been able to talk too much to Lenny about how he feels about certain things because of Lenny's learning difficulties and disabilities. One thing I will say is that I will put photos and images up during this podcast if I can work out how to do it. Hopefully that will also guide you a little bit as well. So he plays the game slowly. We can also say about this probably shows us that George has played this card game probably hundreds and hundreds of times. So it tells us that he's been to loads of different ranches, that he's on his own quite a lot of the time. And deliberately probably also shows us that probably George is quite an intelligent character. So if you do something deliberately, you think about it, and that probably indicates, or Steinbeck is telling us, that George is an intelligent character. One thing I also want to go back to quickly about Curley's wife that I didn't mention earlier on is another reason we could say she's unnamed. So a theory you could put in your assignments is that everything that Lenny loves are soft. So Lenny loves soft things. We're told that right from the beginning of the novel. And everything that Lenny loves are unnamed. So rabbits, mice, puppy, and we could add Curley's wife to that list. So we could say that everything that Lenny loves are soft, they're all nameless, so can be added to that. Okay, so another reason why George may play solitaire a lot is that it gives him a chance to avoid conversation. So if you're playing a card game, people aren't really going to get you involved in conversation. It's also a barrier for him, so it means that he doesn't have to give eye contact to people and he can just carry on with his sort of lonely existence. Because remember, we're told the American dream is of a case of everyone can, if you work hard enough, you'll get what you want. But by this stage, people were being disillusioned, and it was also almost every man out for himself. So straight away, Curley's wife is introduced as pretty, Purty, or pretty. Yeah. So straight away, it's important to note that the only ways that she's brought up is sexually and physically. So they didn't begin the conversation by saying, well, she's got a cracking personality. Straight away, it's about how she looks. And then they say pretty, but. So straight away, we're getting negative thoughts, negative opinions about Curley's wife. So saying she's pretty, but, so we know there's something negative to come after that. Yeah, so straight away, through this little passage here, it's all about sexual and derogatory comments about Curley's wife. So she's got the eye, yeah, give Slim the eye, give Coulson the eye. So Coulson, just giving someone the eye again basically just means looking at different men in sort of a seductive or a sexually sort of attractiveness way. Okay, so here it says, yeah, she's married 2 weeks and got the eye. Maybe that's why Curley's pants is full of ants. So remember, that means that probably an old expression you heard when you were at school was ants in your pants. So it means if you're anxious. So basically they're saying here that she's looking at all these men, and that's why Curley's getting annoyed and anxious, because he's been married to 2 weeks to someone and already they're looking at other men. Straight away down here, Candy, who is basically just been introduced to us, he says here, well, I think Curley's married a tart. So considering we've just met Candy, that's a very blunt thing and a very insulting thing to say about someone that we've never met. So an important thing to remember is that all of these things that we hear about Curley's wife, these are just rumours. So we are getting a biased opinion about this woman that we never met. She could be the most wonderful woman in the world, but we're just getting rumours from Candy. Remember, try to think of it maybe like how would men or boys talk about girls in the locker room as opposed to if they were with a girl. So it's probably going to be a lot different. So try to keep that in your head, okay? So also in this part, Candy's got 2 roles. He is a guide, so he's a guide for George and Lenny. He's showing them the bunkhouse, where they sleep, where they're going to eat, all the different people. But he's also a guide for the reader, so he's introducing these characters. So we're getting a biased opinion from Candy. If we go into the next section, where we're actually going to start to meet Curley's wife. So both men glanced up, for the rectangle of sunshine in the doorway was cut off. A girl was standing there looking in. So what Steinbeck is using here is a metaphor. So the rectangle of sunshine. So sunshine is a metaphor for hopes and dreams. So we've already heard in the first chapter that George and Lenny have dreams of having their own land where they can feed, where Lenny can feed the rabbits, etc. So basically they're saying that when they're talking here that it's full of light and sunshine and full of hope, but Curley's wife cut this off. So Curley's wife is the darkness that is going to erase their sunshine. In other words, Curley's wife is going to be the person who stops their dream. She is going to block this. So it's important to say that Steinbeck uses metaphors. Okay. So she had full rouged lips and wide-spaced eyes, heavily made up. Her fingernails were red, her hair hung in little rolled clusters like sausages. She wore a cotton dress and red mules, on the insteps of which were little bouquets of red ostrich feathers. So I would say 99.9% you are going to use this passage in your controlled assessment. So if we first of all go in and talk about the colour red. So she has rouged lips, her fingernails are red. She wore red mules on the insteps of which were red ostrich feathers. Okay. So first of all, we could say that she's using this colour to get attention, because it's obviously you wouldn't see too many of these sort of things on a ranch in California at that time, but she's obviously doing it because she's trying to come across as attractive. So the connotations of the colour red, we could have things like sex, passion, danger, warning, blood. So all of these things are telling us that Curley's wife is a big, big warning sign for these guys, that it's going to be this person is going to cause trouble for them. She has full rouged lips, so she's wearing lipstick. So again, that's a sexual thing. Her fingernails were red. So again, that's another sexual thing. But also we could say about the fingernails were red. Perhaps John Steinbeck is foreshadowing that she will have blood on her hands. So maybe he's saying that she's going to cause trouble, or maybe literally she's going to have blood on her hands, that she's going to cause a death in some way. So we can say that she is culpable for Lenny's death at the end of the novella. I'll leave it up to you to decide how much you think she's responsible, if at all. She wore little red mules, on the insteps of which were little bouquets of red ostrich feathers. Okay, so we have talked about the red ostrich feathers before, but if you weren't there, I was basically saying the one thing you could say is that the person who would wear ostrich feathers probably in that time were movie actresses. So we know that Curley's wife, and I'll try to put an image up as I'm speaking now. Curley's wife's dream was to become a movie actress. So she's trying to wear the same sort of things as her idols would have worn. So the thing is to note about this is she's wearing these tiny little ones on her shoes, while the picture I'm going to probably show you on the podcast is this woman's wearing absolutely massive ostrich feathers. So actually you can link that back to the context and say that she can only afford these tiny ones, while the proper movie stars are wearing this massive, more expensive thing. So that shows the money. There wasn't a lot of money around at the time. The other thing I said about the ostrich feathers, sort of maybe a bit of a sort of high level answer, was that the famous thing about ostriches are that they can't fly. They're a bird that can't fly. So you could say that this shows that Curley's wife can't fly. So she's got all these dreams, but she's not going to achieve them. That she is going to stay on this ranch, and there's no way that she's going to get to her dream of Hollywood. So she is a bird that is not able to fly. So I also want to go back and say the wide space eyes. So wide space eyes denotes or shows that someone is young, that someone is naive, someone is innocent. So heavily made up is another interesting choice that Steinbeck's made. So heavily made up, so it means that she's really, really trying, doing her best to look sexually attractive. Also, it may show that she's trying to look older. So remember, if you're like if you're sort of a teenage girl, we think Curley's wife's about 18 or 19. She may be trying to look older so that the men find her more sexually attractive. Another thing we maybe could say, she's trying to hide a flaw. So maybe she has a physical flaw like a scar, or because she's a young girl, maybe she's got acne and she's trying to cover up her spots. But also maybe personality-wise, maybe she's trying to cover up a flaw. Maybe she's been hurt, not confident, so because of this, the makeup's making her feel more confident, trying to hide those psychological flaws. Another thing you could say, and remember a lot of this in your controlled assessment, you could say this suggests or perhaps. So this is not fact, this is just opinion. One thing you could say is perhaps it's covering up signs of domestic abuse. So we know that Curley is an aggressive man. He used to be a boxer. Whenever something comes up, the only way he responds to it is physically threatening or wanting to beat someone up, or in Lenny's case, going for revenge and trying to shoot him. So you could say that the makeup is trying to maybe hide signs of domestic abuse. Her hair hung in little roll clusters like sausages. So this simile of sausages is not particularly flattering example, but it's quite interesting because this hair hung in rolled little clusters. At the time, this would have been a hairstyle that a child would have had, or a young teenager would have. So it's quite funny or quite interesting. You can comment on the fact that she's trying to use this lipstick, she's trying to use the makeup to make herself more adult, while in fact she does have a child's haircut. So the like sausages part is interesting. Like I said, it's a simile, and perhaps you could say that the reason Steinbeck says it's like sausages is that all the men on the ranch see her or view her as a piece of meat. So they don't see her as a person, they just see her as a piece of meat. She wore a cotton house dress and red mules. So the cotton house dress, which hopefully you can see a photo of, is interesting for a couple of reasons. So one, a cotton is quite cheap. So you could again link that back to the contest, and you could say that was all that the ranch, even though they've got money, they won't have a lot of money, that's all they could afford. Another thing you can say is that cotton is soft. We know from chapter 1, and I'll try to put the quote up as I'm speaking, we know from chapter 1 how Lenny feels about soft things. So Lenny absolutely loves petting, and he absolutely loves soft things. So we know as readers there's a link. It's Lenny likes soft things, Lenny pets the soft thing, and then Lenny ends up killing the soft thing. So we haven't had it yet, but we've had it with the dead mouse in chapter 1, then we have it with the puppy, and then eventually we have it with Curley's wife. And you could possibly say that this foreshadows Curley's wife's death. We've also had it from the girl in weed in chapter 1. If you remember, the quote was, just wanted to feel that girl's dress, just wanted to pet it like a mouse, wanted to feel her dress. So we know immediately there's danger with Lenny touching soft things, and death will occur at the end of the novella because of that. I also want to go back up to the top a little bit, and the first description we have of her, where she's actually going to be in the room, is the word girl. Steinbeck has not introduced her as a woman, it's a girl. So immediately we think that she's probably going to be 18 or 19, and we probably think that she's going to have aspects that girls have. So she's going to be young, she's going to be naive, she's probably going to be wanting attention, she's probably going to do silly things, She's not a woman. She's not got a wise head on her shoulders. So we know that she's probably going to do immature things. To finally finish on the red, and remember basically that red equals danger, danger, danger. Okay. So I'm looking for Curley. She said her voice had a nasal, brittle quality. So nasal is probably also a sign of immaturity. So nasal voice perhaps could be someone a bit younger, but also it's not particularly flattering description. And the word brittle is quite interesting as well. So brittle means it's like another negative thing. Brittle could mean weak. It could mean that something's going to break. So it could also mean that it shows that Curley's wife is a weak character, and maybe she may break at some point. Oh, she put her hand behind her back and leaned against the door frame so that her body was thrown forward. You're the new fellas that just came, ain't you? So this description here basically shows that she's trying to use suggestive body language. So basically here she's just thrusting her breasts forward for the men to see. So it's another sexual thing that she's doing. You're the new fellas that just that came, ain't you? So this basically shows us that she's not particularly interested where Curley is. She's just wanting to know, and she's seen these new guys come in the bunkhouse, and she's probably just interested to see what they're going to say. So Lenny's eyes move down over her body. So straight away that this is another warning sign for the reader and for George, that Lenny is attracted to Curley's wife. So that's probably going to spell a bit of doom for various people. So she looked at her fingernails. So this is another thing where she's probably putting on a bit of an act. She's pretending like she's not particularly bothered, although she knows that Lenny's eyes are on her. So George said brusquely. So this is an adverb. So remember, an adjective that describes a verb. So this basically means blunt or abrupt. So basically George is saying that he probably believes the rumours about her, and he's not really interested in getting involved in a conversation with her. If he ain't, I better look someplace else, she said playfully. So another adverb, and this basically shows that it's a bit flirtatious. It's maybe a thing sort of a girl trying to get her interested, and it also shows us again that she's not particularly interested in finding Curley. So Lenny watched her fascinated. So we almost get an image of Lenny staring there with his mouth open with a little bit of dribble coming down, that he's totally fascinated by this woman, and he's probably not seen too many people like her. She smiled archly and twitched her body. So here we just get a sense that she's absolutely loving the attention that Lenny is giving her, and that she's just enjoying the men looking and seeing how attractive she is. So then she says, nobody can't blame person for looking. So this is quite interesting, because you could say it's a little bit of a statement with two explanations for it. So one, she's saying that can't blame her for looking for her husband. It's fair enough. No one can say anything about that. But also it's saying that to the guys where, well, no one really can blame you for looking at me. Okay, so that's another thing where she's just trying to get attention throughout the novella. And in next few chapters, I will talk about why she needs the attention. Also, I will put the next sort of chapters up, the links in this video as well for you to look at. So Slim comes in and he says, hi, good looking. So this is the only time when anyone actually ever says anything to her that's pretty sort of complimentary in the whole of the novella, apart from when she's passed away and John Steinbeck and the animals actually, ironically, nice to her. So this isn't, we're not meant to take this as in Slim's particularly attracted to her. It's just a sort of a nice thing, a nice sort of polite thing, nice jokey thing to say to her. Also, Slim can talk to her in this way because he's the only one on the ranch who's not bothered or scared about losing their job or scared about Curley. He knows that he does his job well, and he probably knows that the boss actually would probably believe him or trust him over his own son. It also shows us that Slim's a nice guy. That everything that Candy said about him is probably true. It also, at this time as well, it's quite interesting that for all we know, Slim could be having an affair with Curley's wife, because we don't really know Slim yet, but obviously we come to realise that that's not the case. So when Slim says that I've just seen him going in the house, she's suddenly apprehensive. So apprehensive basically means worried or a little bit nervous. So basically this is because she's realised that Curley's gone home and she's not there. So she should be in the house waiting for him to come home and waiting to cook his dinner. So basically she realises that and she knows she's got to go. She then says, bye boys. So two sort of meanings of this. One is she's saying boys, bye boys in a little bit of a flirty way, but it also shows her age again, where she's not saying bye guys or bye their names. Boys, it shows that she's a girl. So George then is pretty much sums up how he feels about her by saying, Jesus, what a tramp. So this is one of many insults that's thrown away. And it shows that the vibe that Curley's wife is trying to give off is not being successful. She's trying to give off a vibe of an adult woman, a sexually attractive woman, an elegant, sophisticated wannabe actress, while in fact all the man just see is a tart, unfortunately. It also shows it's that probably George is experienced. Although we know later on in the novella he hasn't got a girlfriend or a sweetheart, he's probably seen a lot of these women around on the ranch. And it's quite ironic actually that Curley's wife is actually even talked in a worse way than they speak about the prostitutes. They almost speak about the prostitutes and the woman who owns the brothel in a respectful way, and that probably shows where Curley's wife is in the pecking order. So again, Lenny says down here she's pretty defensively, so he's almost sort of defending Curley's wife even though he doesn't know her. And again, that shows that he's attracted to her, and it's another warning sign to the reader that he's going to try and pet her, and because that's his way of showing attraction. And we know what happens to things that Lenny tries to pet, meaning they normally end up in the ground dead, unfortunately. So then George says she bet she clear out for $20. So again, that's a reference where she'd probably do anything for money. She'd probably leave for $20. Also maybe sort of a prostitute reference where she probably actually would have sex with someone for that much. Gosh, she was pretty. He smelled admirably. So again, that adds to the idea that Lenny finds her absolutely gorgeous. And George then cuts down on this by saying, "Listen to me, you crazy bastard," he said fiercely. So that's another adverb that Steinbeck uses for George, and this basically shows us how strongly George feels about this, that he can almost see, like the reader can see, that this is going to end in trouble, and he's doing his best to make sure that doesn't happen. So in this, he really sort of goes to town. A few different insults thrown at Curley's wife. So he calls her a bitch, which obviously is a horrendous term, but also the only other person who's called a bitch in the novella is Candy's dog. So that shows again how much they sort of view Curley's wife. So then she says they call him poison. So poison, remember, poison is something that you put down to kill someone. So George thinks that she's going to end up killing someone, so either kill them physically or kill their dream or just cause trouble. He then says he never seen any jailbait. So remember, jailbait is a girl who is not old enough to have sex and who is going to get a guy into trouble. And then it says here, Lenny tried to disengage his ear. So here we can say that George is trying to give Lenny a command about how to deal with Curley's wife, but Lenny, unfortunately, is just not taking it in. All he can probably see is the rouge lipstick, the hair, the wide-spaced eyes, the fact that he finds her attractive, and he can't take anything in that George is saying, that just leave it alone. So George is signposting here, or Steinbeck is signposting for us, as well as in the red descriptions earlier on in the chapter, that Curley's wife is trouble, and he wants Lenny to stay away from her, and vice versa. So he wants Curley's wife to stay away from Lenny and George. He then finishes by saying, well, you can keep away from her because she's a rat trap, if ever I've seen one. So again, the thing about George is telling us that this woman is going to end up killing them, or killing their dream, or at least affecting them in a dreadful way. He says, you let Curley take the rap, he let himself in for it. So basically he's saying, you let Curley take all the problems and all the violence or all the trouble that's going to come, he let himself in for it. So because he married her, he should be the one who has to deal with it. My notes page on chapter 2 involving Curley's wife. So this is the stuff I've talked about, so I won't really go over it. I'll leave it up for a few seconds. So if you just pause the video, and then you can copy down the notes, or at least just have a little bit of a look at it. So pause the video now, and then I'll start scrolling down in a second. But hopefully this has been a good revision tool for you. We will go over in class the various things you need to put in your controlled assessment, but these will definitely give you some good points to put in there. So, and any problems, let me know. Thank you. Bye.